technology into the area of omega-6 to omega-3, or into the area of omega-3 if you want to simplify it, where we measure all your fatty acids that is built up in your cell membrane. And your cell membrane is actually the most important nucleus in the body, because everything in your body happens either passing in through the cell membrane or coming out of the cell membrane. And then we use a lot of those nutrients in the mitochondria inside. And the mitochondria also have a membrane built by the same fats. So then when we find there is a new technology, meaning that there is a new technology, a test that will tell you if you get enough omega-6s and if you get enough of omega-3s. And now from science, we know that we get way too much omega-6 and we're getting too little omega-3, but now it becomes personal. And then do we have a product that will kind of like close the gap so much better than existing products in the market? Will we be able to do this better than what the doctor's recommendation is? Will we be better than doing this than what they do at the fitness club? Will we be better at doing this than other omega-3 companies? Will we be better at doing this to the degree where the customer feels that when they've gotten into our products and later on into balance, which we call it, will they feel that it's a 10x difference? And if the answer to that is yes, then we move to number 5, is that can we completely replace the old? And the truth is yes. So what do we replace? Well, we replace a part of the food budget, because in the food basket, when you go shopping, we have filled up everything with omega-6s. And we didn't know that for a long time, because before the test, we didn't know that everyone had such a large problem. 97% fails this test, you know? When we look at that, well, because the whole feed industry got filled up with omega-6s, and everything that we eat eats omega-6 before we eat it. So our levels got elevated. And then we also had dietary changes. That means that we are not getting as much omega-3s as we used to. And with correcting this, we set our health straight again. And the results from it is mesmerizing. The amount of testimonials that I've heard, the amount of thank you notes that I've gotten on physical paper, even in the mail as letters, but as text messages, as social media, or when I meet them at events, is just mesmerizing. The amount of feedback that I've heard my leaders getting from across the world. We're selling to over 100 markets, and we're officially operating in more than 50 countries. The feedback that we get is just mesmerizing. So we've got all of the things in place to become a global megatrend. Zinzino can become a global megatrend company. That is a company like Apple, like Facebook, like Netflix, like Tesla, and I could mention many, many more. And there is, of course, the mega big ones and the smaller ones, but I think that we can become a company that goes to 100 million customers by 2050. A global megatrend grows in 5 phases. First is the innovation. It's the people that are crazy enough to try to change the future. The ones that get in early, that is kind of like they want to try it out. And the way they get in is the innovators, is their interest, is because they work in the area, but it's also through our model of direct selling, they get in because they got introduced before somebody else. And when somebody else said no, they happen to say yes. And that first phase takes us from 0% of the population using the new product to 2.5% of the population. The furthest we have gotten in this first phase is that we've gotten to over 1.5% in Norway, and Scandinavia has solidly passed 1%, and the Baltics have solidly passed 1%, and there is many more countries across Europe that is getting close to 1%. We cannot predict exactly when we have finished the innovation, but when I listen to what's happening right now, and that's the things that drives it, you know, how it goes faster. And that is that the growth of the trend is determined by the political needs and how many copies you. And I can tell you that every single month now, I'm hearing about somebody wanting to go into test-based nutrition. And it's probably a lot more than ones that I hear about. That's just ones that crosses my table. There will literally be tens of thousands of companies joining into the trend of test-based nutrition just in the next few years, which will lift us as the pioneer, as the leader of the market to new heights. But what I didn't expect to come this fast was that politicians, that people that have influence far beyond my reach today, I hope I will have that global influence one day in the future, is constantly in the media talking about the overusage of plant oils. Omega-6s, is that what they're actually saying? And they say seed oils, that's omega-6s again, and how we are lacking omega-3s in society, and how that is driving all of the health problems that we've seen growing so fast for the last 60 years. That is the big problem, they say, the politicians say. There is a few out there right now, you can follow them, and I recommend you to follow them. I don't want to put their names in there because this is not about politics. This is so much bigger than politics. But that drives the trend, and the reason why that happened was because there all of a sudden became a health minister that comes from sort of our background. He was already into nutrition, and he wants to move this forward. So this is a trend on the product. Now, the second thing that they say, the only way to know is to test. And that is the trend of the testing. And testing is going, again, as I said, to explode the profession of nutrition into an enormous amount of sales. When we move from innovation, we move into trend setting. That is the cool people and the professionals that work inside of the area, and they get convinced that this is a better way of doing it. And this is happening already at the massive scale. So even though we're not at 2.5% inside of a full country, if you look at the nutrition community of Norway, we've passed 2.5%. If you look at the sports community, we've passed 2.5% in many, many countries. And if you look at health professionals working with alternative methods of health, we've by far reached 2.5%. We're probably more getting into early majority. So from 2.5 to 13.5% impact is then called trend setting. And then the next 34% of growth is 16 to 34%, which is called early majority, and it's mainstream. It's when the fast movers, the fast followers are coming and say, well, I need to take care of my health. I need to also get into balance. After that, early majority became into late majority, another 34%, from 50 to 84%. Those are the ones that are a little bit conservative. They don't want to have the things first, and eventually comes the laggards, the people that hate me, the last 16%, the people that think that I've completely lost my mind when I say that you need to take a test and then you need to take an oil, and that will replace some of your food budget. They say, how can somebody say something like that? And they eventually don't want change, but when there is no more option in step number 5, they will comply just like the rest of us. So what are the benefits of being a part of Zinzino in the middle of this? Well, you become a part of something bigger than Zinzino. You become a part of a movement that is going to change the world. How are we changing the world? Well, your family and friends reaps the first benefit of being in that innovator group, later on being in that trend-setting group, and they get healthy before the others. We build a blue zone. And a blue zone is a definition of where people are more healthy than the rest of the people around them, so that they can live longer and enjoy the benefits of good health. Then we also have the income opportunity as a partner. When you come in with a company that is growing year over year over year, and the demand for the product is increasing year over year over year over year, it's incredible how fast you can expand an organization. And I honestly think that we will have tens of thousands of people becoming diamonds in the next decades. And I think that we will have thousands of people becoming all the ranks in between, crowns and royal crowns and black crowns and eventually presidents. And they change their life financially through the income stream that they're creating. They're not only changing their health, they're changing the lives of their families because of that income. And then number 4, you become an investor. We're a publicly traded company at the Nasdaq First North in Sweden. And you can buy some shares in a company and enjoy when a company becomes one of those mega brands out there. Because if you spot a mega trend and you create a product inside of the mega trend that is a new technology that changes the perception. When you take the test, you can never go back. You know that you're out of balance and you want to be in balance. And then you have a product that works 10x better than the rest, so that when people are in balance, there is no option to go back to another product. Then you create history and you get tens of millions, then 100 million, and probably in the future hundreds of millions of customers. And in the stock market, that gets rewarded and you become the history maker of this change in the world. I believe that history is being made as we're speaking, and Zinzino is this company that is making that history as the pioneers of test-based nutrition.